Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to DevChatter. Hopefully you are all having a fantastic Saturday. It is currently a little after 1 p.m. here where I am on Saturday, April 28th. And I am ready to write some code, and I hope you all are as well. Today we are going to be working on... I just noticed you guys aren't getting my audio camera. Well, hang on. Just make sure you guys are getting good background music. Good morning, afternoon, evening. Hello, Async Awake. Hopefully everybody's having a good day. I just noticed you guys might not be getting much background music, and I'm not sure if that's just because the song ended. Okay, there's a little bit. All right, I just wanted to make sure you guys were getting a little bit of background music while we were doing this. As you probably notice, and there's Steve Ballmer bringing in C# Fritz and crew. So welcome everybody. Hopefully everyone is enjoying their Saturday. And it is time to write some more code. So as I alluded at our last stream on Thursday, we are going to be working on our game tracker program again. So we have that pulled up and are going to be making some additional changes to it. The goal on this one is we want to get this wrapped up so that we're at a fairly stable point in our game tracker program. For those of you that don't know, this is one of our side projects, and what we are doing in this one is essentially writing a program that will let you record games that you play. So you and your friends sit down for an evening and you play a board game, and you want to record what game you guys played and who won, who lost, who taught, etc., so that you have that data for some future reference, and we thought that could be fun. We also thought it would be interesting if the players recorded how much they liked the game, so along with just whether or not they won, maybe a rating of how much they enjoyed the game. And then what we're going to use that for is we're going to have a guest on stream who knows a little bit more about machine learning than, say, I do, which I don't know all that much about it, and he knows a decent amount. And so what we're going to do on that is, so he is a developer evangelist that works for a company that builds an API that you can use for machine learning tasks, and everything we're going to do on stream is all stuff you could do with free software, which is usually my goal, is most things I want us to do. If we are going to work with any vendor smaller than, say, Microsoft, is we want to make sure that whatever you're going to do, everyone can do without having to shell out a bunch of money. And that's actually also one of the reasons why we're not using ASP.NET Core 2.1 yet, is because I want to make sure that everybody can use the software without having to install preview bits and things like that. So anybody that wants to contribute can do that. Hang on, I need to hop in a rock, paper, scissors game real fast. So you probably all noticed that there is a bot in the chat. That is our other main project on the stream, is our bot. Okay, so in our game tracker program, we have a pull request that came in, so I want to review that first. So the pull request is this one here from... I don't even want to guess on how you pronounce the end of that name, so I'm going to say Soul. And then in here, let's see. So changed it so that our model called that games instead of games. I totally approve. That is a change that we should have done there. Added in another header for display name as the Board Game Geek, link. So this is a pull request that is going to bring in data from Board Game Geek. So instead of having a game, changes to a game view model, which I definitely approve of. Wrote this here with the intention that you would probably break it into format you prefer. Yep, I absolutely will. Okay, so in here, let's see, we grab the repository, pulls all the games from the database, and then takes those games, goes out, makes a connection to Board Game Geek using an HTTP client, and then for each one of these, goes to the Board Game Geek website and uses their board game search to try and find the link to the Board Game Geek game entry. So for anybody that doesn't know, I'm going to go ahead and load up Board Game Geek here. So this is a website that is all about board games. You'll notice it's looks kind of dated right now, but the website is here and it has this whole set of board games. So if you're new to board gaming, this website exists and has a lot of good information on it. So we might, for example, go to the entry on Terraforming Mars, and this is the URL for that. And Terraforming Mars has a bunch of other interesting things on it. Something of note, my favorite board game, I actually do know the URL for it on Board Game Geek, because that's it right there. It is board game ID number 1. So this is my favorite board game. You may have noticed it in the in our sample data that we use. So this is D-Mocker. It is a fantastic game. Definitely one of the ones that I will try to play whenever I've actually got the time for it. You'll notice the 240-minute playtime, which that varies quite a bit. So it's not a new game, but it's very fun. Okay, so looks like heading out to their XML API, grabbing the data, and creating a view model object with the ID and title from our game model object, and then adding in the Board Game Geek link that it did. So I like it. My only concern here is that when we call this, because we don't have paging or anything like that, it could make a lot of calls out to Board Game Geek, which is not a great thing to be doing. So for now, it's not a huge deal, so I will leave it in there, but it's just going to mean that we're going to need to get paging sooner rather than later if we bring this in. Hello, Helloja. Welcome. So I am going to approve this and merge it in, and we will start working with this. So let's bring that. Welcome, Zelvixidian. Welcome. Summer, welcome. No, you guys haven't missed much yet. We are only just starting the stream, so we're in like 15 minutes-ish, and that's about it. So, just getting started. Zelvixidian. Thank you. Yeah, see? I might mess up names every once in a while, but if you tell me how to pronounce it, I will try to get a better one. And I think that might have been better. I think I even got the emphasis on the right syllable. So, what we're going to work on today, let's see, we need a README projects, have a link to the Board Game Geek from the games page. So that was this one. And that didn't get closed as part of this, but I will go ahead and close that now, because it didn't actually get mentioned on that issue that it would close that one. So now it should be fixed. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this program. We'll take a look at it. We'll see what it does. And I have not actually even merged this into master yet, although I really should, just because we don't have that one yet. So, and hello, Nate. Yep, emphasis on the O. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and debug the, run without debugging on this application. And we are going to head over to the games page, which is the one that should be making those requests out. So, Board Game Geek link test, 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 test. Sounds good. Alright, let's go take a look at that code and see how it works. So, it was nice of that to be contributed. Now let's take a look at what it does. So, I believe that was on index. Display for the Board Game Geek link. Oh, didn't notice that. We picked up some tabs in there, so we had mixed tabs and spaces, so that one came in that way. I don't have a strong preference on tabs versus spaces. My strongest preference is that you don't mix them in your project, because that just gets messy. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the index.cs.html.cs file. So I know that this just got hard-coded in here, which is fine. And I'm just going to fix those so they don't... because who wants to have tabs and spaces in the same project? Oh! Untabify. There we go. Thank you, whatever did that. Okay. Board Game Geek link gets set there. Where did this get set? It got assigned to test because we didn't actually parse response and get link here. Okay. I hadn't even noted it. I didn't look carefully enough to even see that he didn't actually even do it. Alright, so is success status code, and then we are going to say, so I will finish it for you. Response dot. Let's take a look at what the value is. I'm going to stop in here. We're going to take a look at this. I'm assuming this is coming back as XML data, but I don't know what the structure of it is. So let's debug. So I hit F5. We're going to go ahead and run this in debug mode. And it's going to open in the wrong browser, because of course it is. Thanks, Visual Studio. Okay, so we got our response back. So we should have response dot result status code 200. I assume it's in here. Content. It's got to be content, right? Content. Value. No. Not the header content. Where is it? No, I don't want the headers. Alright, we're gonna let this run for now. So we come in here, response, so response dot result, right? Request message. All right. Ivan, welcome. Or probably Yvonne, maybe? Because, you know, America. Status code 400, that version, that. Okay. So we have a stream. Alright. Result.content. Read as string async. Smabuk, welcome, thanks for following. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and stop the program for now. We're going to toss this in here. And then what I am going to do is this. Declare local. I don't want to have that actually be a task of string. I want to make this be the content as a string. So we are going to await that. We're not in an async method. Well, I guess I could do this and just do the same darn thing here. Get rid of the await. I apologize, everybody. We are going to get rid of these. We're going to fix that later so that this can actually be async calls or make it actually synchronous, one or the other, so that we're not doing these horrible dot results in here. However, that's the best way to get to where I want to be in a moment. So on stream, best thing to do is just make that work. And in fact, even when you're writing code, I always like the, make it work and then make it right. So first thing you do, make it work. Then you can come back, refactor, and make it actually good code. And then once you've made it good code, you can worry about performance and other things like that. Until that point, no reason to do anything else. One or more errors occurred. Cannot read content as string as an invalid character set. Ooh. Content type is invalid. I wonder what our content type is that it came back with. You know what? We could take a different route with this. Instead of pulling these URLs at this point, here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to yank this out as a separate library for now. So we're going to move this. So let's go ahead and where do we want to put this? So that's an EF thing. I want to make another library. This library is going to understand that we are communicating with Board Game Geek. So everything that actually talks to Board Game Geek is going to go there. Hey Dylan, welcome. So did I make my other libraries net core or net standard? I don't actually remember. You guys remember? Net standard. Okay. I should do net standard. I just wasn't sure if I had or not. Alright, so on this one, we're going to call this one DevChatter.GameTracker. And then we're going to say dot leaderboard and game status would be cool. Yes, Janiscu. Definitely want to get those eventually. So I'm going to say infra.BGG. So infrastructure projects and then Board Game Geek. Just because I think we're going to do a lot of connections with Board Game Geek. I think, not just for looking up a game. I think we're going to pull a lot of different types of data on that, especially when we get Guy on the stream and we start looking at the machine learning aspect, because we're going to want to pull data like game mechanics and other things using our API for that. So I am going to set this up to be able to do that. So my first thought here is that this initial piece should get renamed with a Oh, what's a good name for this? We're looking up game data. So this is like a game data service or something like that. And yeah, exactly, Janiscu. Kind of like our top command, but with oh man, yeah. See, Nightbot's in there because Nightbot's always here, and I count, and it would count. So yeah, we should nuke that one. Get it cleared up just so it's not in here. So we're gonna make that file match the type name, and then game data service. So what do we want to call for? We want to call this, and we want to say public string. Actually, let's say well, hang on. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go take a look at this code. We're going to see what he was calling out to. So Board Game Geek API, huh? Board Game Geek API. Let's take a look at it. Would there be any benefit to using AutoFact for this project? Haloja, yes, there would be. Just something we'd have to set up at some point. Again, with all those kinds of things, you know, if you're going to use AutoFact or an inject or structure map or really any kind of dependency injection, any IOC container, it really comes down to how complicated your project is, because adding in the IOC container adds in a little bit of complexity. Anybody that was at the beginning of the DevChatter bot streams probably noticed that I just, you know, hard-coded in and just, you know, wired up our structure. And because we were fairly simple at the beginning, it's actually much better to just wire it up yourself. You don't get overhead, and it's simple. Everyone can understand it. Everybody that looks at the code can just go, oh, I get it. I understand. I see what's going on. So life cycle's easy to understand. Everything about it's easy to understand. So adding in the IOC container adds in a little bit of complexity and lets you do a couple of things you couldn't do otherwise, but it's one of those, I don't like to put it into a project until we're at the point that we need the IOC container. So that's the deal with that one. Okay, so let's take a look at this API and see what we get. So XML API, okay, so the way it works is you can search for games by name. This is going by game ID. So I think what I want to do is this, because I'm now seeing that there is a game ID that we can reference. So if I get the Board Game Geek ID, that would be a nice way of being able to reference it in the future. So if we wanted to do a single call for many games, I think we can do it just a bit with this. So that is a nicer way of setting it up, if we just get the game ID when the game is added. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, so they have some nice examples here. So yeah, so if we say wanted to search for is this how we would search for Democker? Yeah, okay, so it found Democker, year published, and it comes back with the ID of the game. So when you do a search, you get back the object ID, and that's all we're going to get out of this, apparently. So we do want to get the ID based on this. And then we can use that, well, I assume we do, hang on. Let's, mountains. Yeah, okay, so you came back with a bunch of madness. Oh, there's Mountains of Madness. Here it is. So this is another board game that's very fun. This is actually a very recent one. You'll notice the year published is 2017. Although, actually, it's kind of small. There you go. So now you guys can actually see this. So this is the XML that it's getting us back when we use that little search, which I think the search is the right answer, because I think what we're going to want to do is be hitting this API when we're adding in a new game. So I think that's what we're going to want to do long term. So for now, I am going to set this up back here as a place that we can reference, but I'm expecting we're going to want to call this from JavaScript eventually and see if we can't make it so that we pull this data live while the thing is running. So we'll see what we end up with. So welcome Echo Strike, thanks for the lurk. Hopefully you'll be back and talking with us soon. Okay, so knowing that, this will not actually get us the data that we want right away. So what I want to do is this. So I love that we got this new game record, not the game record view model, the game view model, which is here. So we are going to put this over here. I'm going to add a new item. We're going to make this a class. We're going to call it game view model. We're going to put it in here. We are then going to steal this game view model from here and move it over to here. So we're putting this view model in the place where it actually should be now. So it's stored over with the rest of the view models. And so it was created by the person that built it. The reason why he or she, I don't actually know, put it inside, so created a view model instead of using the model like we had before. Eventually we were going to switch to these view models anyway, and the reason why is that we don't want, well, we didn't want to have all the metadata that was going to go in there to be stored on that table. So the idea was he wasn't going to have the Board Game Geek link on the table, so he created the view model so he wouldn't have to change the model that talks to the database, because that model, the one over here, whoops, over here, this is mapped onto the database. So this has an ID, it has a title, and I want to add a couple of other things. So before I continue down that road of setting up that piece there, I want to do a couple of things. So first off, I want to create that project and those pieces, but I need to fix up this first. So let's uncheck these, because they're not going in. We're going to uncheck this one as well, because this one's adding that new project. And then this is, this is like code cleanup for that, huh? So we'll call this code cleanup. That's literally all I was doing there. I just shifted code around for the most part, changed some tabs to spaces, and that was about it. So the next thing that we want to do is get this code out of here and actually do the thing that, actually he says Jason on here, so he's got his full name apparently when he commits. So Jason added that. So thank you, Jason. This code should be good stuff. So here's what we're going to do. I want to extract this, but I actually want to add that link that Jason didn't want to add to the model, which I totally get why he wouldn't want to add it. So we are going to have, in addition to a title, we're going to have a Board Game Geek link. I think that would be useful. And let's say Board Game Geek Geek ID. It happens that that's always a string, that's always an integer, but I don't really need to do math with it at all, and I don't see value I don't see a lot of value in the savings that storing it as an integer gets us. So I'm going to keep it as a string for now, I think. Well, let's make it an int question mark. So we'll do it. So that's going to be a nullable integer, and in this case we're going to have null mean that we haven't gotten the value, like we don't know what it is on there. So that would also handle the case where there is not a Board Game Geek link. So the game on Board Game Geek is not the one that we use. So I think there's value in having the link saved, but then also the ID will let us look up its metadata. So that's how we're going to store the game for now. So let's add that. So once we have this, now when I do a build, everything should still work, because what we added doesn't really make a significant change. And then what I'm going to do is I need to add a new migration to this. So I believe it's add migration, and I forget if we need to tell where the project is. I think we do. So I'm going to name this migration. This is Board Game Geek metadata. Alright, so I am going to say project, and then we're going to say DevChatter.GameTracker.data.ef. Now that's, I apologize, that text is kind of small, and I think I can actually make it bigger. Did that work? Okay, looks like it worked that time. So this is what I typed, add migration Board Game Geek metadata, and then the piece I had to add here was this project descriptor. Now the reason I had to tell it what project we're in is because we have our migrations in a separate project, so they're not in our web app. We have them sectioned off over in the data portion. So it is in a separate library specific to data. And in order to tell the EF Core code generation tools where that is, I just had to tell it which project it was in. So now I'm going to jump over here and we're going to take a look at what code it actually created. So it believes the new things here are a nullable integer column on the games table called Board Game Geek ID. And then it believes that we have a string column, Board Game Geek link, that is also nullable. And then it adds a down also. So what these are is this up is how it is when you're upgrading to this version of the code in the migration, it will upgrade to this doing these operations. And then if you want to rev your version down and go back a version, it'll drop these two columns in theory. So in order to make this work then, I should be able to perform the migration, and I believe it's just like update database, I think is what I type in, and it'll do it automatically, auto-magically. So says done. So in theory now, we have those in our database, and I will go ahead and pop this open and take a look. So it is DevChatter Game Tracker right here, tables. And then you'll notice that we have all the ASP.NET like identity stuff for login, because we do have the login support in here. And if I view this data, we should have a bunch of these with no records on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hard code these in initially and do this data lookup myself real quickly. So we're saying that if I search for pandemic, for example, we would come back with pandemic, which is this one, which has that ID. And then pandemic legacy. Ooh, yeah, see, look, it's broken out by season, which is really cool. So, how do you still get to keep the data while changing the columns during a migration? So Helosia, the key is that I didn't change any columns. I added new columns. So it didn't have to drop any tables, it didn't have to drop any columns in order to make this change. I already know the ID of that one. Kalis, it's right here. There's Kalis's number. And then Munchkin, I'm actually not sure. Is there just a base Munchkin that it's going to come back with? Ah, it's sorted alphabetically. And exact equals 1. Whoops. And exact equals 1. No? Well, I don't remember what that search was then. There's Munchkin. 1927. Perfect. Okay, so now we have those values in there. How do you still get... Twitch has a games endpoint too. Janisku, that is a very good point. If we want to handle video games, we can use the Twitch one for that. The challenge is that Twitch will get you an endpoint with streams, but what it won't get you is game metadata. And so what's cool about this one, so let me go ahead and show you here, is Video Game Geek also has one. So the Video Game Geek one, in theory, can get you video game stuff. So, for example, oh, actually, wait, hang on a second. I need to check and see if we're using the wrong one there. Anyway, we'll take a look. Because it seems to imply there's an API 2 that I could be using. We'll have to look. But couldn't you still do that with EF though? What do you mean, Hilosia? I am using EF. I'm using EF Core. Okay, so taking a look at this. So let's go ahead and do this. Pull up a new tab again. I'm gonna do that. Search for game ID 1. Search for game ID 30549. And then game 161936. Game 18602 and game 1927. So I'm trying to use the API here in this way with that comma because I want to see how this works, because very likely I'm intending to... Yeah, that's perfect. So I can do a single request for a set of games. Oh, really? There's going to be a JSON API 3 Mega Power MC. That sounds fantastic. I will totally switch to that. And the nice thing is, I intend to keep all things related to calling that service, that API. Oh, okay. Well, I sure hope they do actually get one that's nicer, but that's why we're keeping everything sectioned off here anyway, is because we don't want to have to deal with those changes. So if they do change something, the rest of our code hopefully will not know about it. So we'll keep it sectioned off nicely. Did this come with a link? Nope. Well, that's a bummer. Either way, let's see. Rename a let's say I rename a property in one of your classes, and that gets persisted to the database, and you create a new migration. So Hilosia, that will only remember that I have to manually create a new migration. I tell it to do that. So when I look at the file, I'll see that it wants to do a rename. And what I can actually do is I can tell EF that my property that has a different name maps to a specific column. So even if I rename the property, as long as I don't want to rename the column also, then I don't have to do that. And as far as you remember in the migration, it will say that it will drop the column and create a new one for you. And no, Hilosia, you're not wrong. So if you want to do a rename of it, you can change the migration to do a rename. So if it gets confused and thinks that you did a new column instead of an old one, you can actually tell it that you wanted to do a rename instead. So there is a safe way to get around that, Haloja. What you got to remember is, while I am automatically generating the migration files, I could change these, right? So instead of an add column, I could do a migration builder dot rename column. See, and I can put that in there. So I can write these migration files myself if I want to. So there is the possibility of doing that. So if the automated tooling messes up and misunderstands what you're doing, you can fix it. So, yep. They account for that. Actually, looking at this, I do think I want to do this slightly differently. So what we're going to do is we are going to discard that, discard that, discard that, and discard that. So I'm going to do the migration again, and I'll show you why. So I don't want to actually add those columns, and so what I'm actually going to do is hop over here into this EF migrations, view data. We're going to go ahead and lie here. Migration boring of metadata. So I am going to delete this because I want to lie to this system. So we did not migrate up to that. And then I'm going to come back in here and I am going to delete these two. Okay. Probably shouldn't have deleted the latter one all that fast, but, well, whatevs. Now the question is if that actually changed it or not. I'm not 100% that that did. Nope. Yep, I could lose the data. Great. Numerous, welcome. Thanks for following. And I am actually going to nuke that because I can look up those values again pretty easily. So I'm just going to roll back that change the manual way because I deleted the things that would have let me down the database. So we updated the database one direction using EF Core's automated tooling. And I could have gone down and reversed it, but I didn't. So this is what we're going to do instead. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's what I want to add. So I'm going to do Shift-Enter, board game ID, board game geek ID, I mean. So we are going to grab the board game geek ID. We're going to make this an int question mark. So we're getting rid of, so we're not going to have the link, we're just going to have the ID. Because the ID is, you can generate the ID based on, you can generate the link based on the ID, so that's the direction we're going to go. So we're just going to store the ID because it's easier. So now that's going to run. I'm going to hop back over here to the Package Manager console, and I am going to go back and you'll remember the command I did before. I'm going to do the same one, the add migration board game geek metadata. But I'm actually just going to say ID, board game geek ID, and then that'll be our migration. So now this adds just the ID column, because I think that's the only one we actually want. And then I'm going to say update database, adding it in this time. Well, I added it in last time too. So that should have updated, so we should now have the board game ID in here. And now, when I run this, alright, that's not bad. So now what we need to do, we have that game ID, is when we're adding a new game is when we actually want to go out and get that data. So I am going to make, this is going to be, one fewer exclamation point there, async awake. And actually, why don't you play Hangman instead? Oh, and async awake, you should be able to start Hangman games, just so you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that this is an auto property, and this auto property is a no, not an auto property. This is going to be a method that is going to be returning a list of some kind of metadata. So I'm going to call it an int for now. And the method name is going to be get game get possible game IDs. We're going to say get possible game IDs, and the reason we're going to say get possible game IDs is because oh, nicely done, Summer, finishing it off before Janisku could get in there. Sniped. And actually, the advantage of doing that last letter there is that you actually get more points from that, so if you actually know how the system works. So this is going to be game title. So we're going to call this, here's what I'm thinking. We're calling this API, and it's going to return back our set of metadata. What I think this is actually going to be is ints and strings. So it's going to be like this. So it's going to be the name of the game and an integer. So let's jump back to our game data service, which is no longer implementing the interface. Ah, see async awake? You can start a game. So it's your sword that does it. You gotta have either a sword or a star to start a game. Oh, I know the word already. Got it now, guys? So we do now have a... Whoa! Okay, so we're going to have a list of those. We're going to throw new non-implemented exception, right? Yeah, totally going to. Return back a new list of strings events, and then in this we're going to say not a game, and some big number. There we go. Potato. Try this one. You got it now? And I'm telling you, it's not parachuter. That's not what it is. It's not parachuter. Okay, so now this is just hard-coded returning that method. That's fine for now. And then what I want to do is I want to change how the game service works. So, over in Pages, Games, when we are creating a game, so when you create a game, well, edit a game, index, we should be able to do this actually here. So let's do this. On our index page, we're going to call this service. So iRepo, and this is going to be an iGame data service. Can this reference that? Add the reference. There we go. Game data service, and then the game data service needs to get wired up, so we need to go to the same place where our repository got wired up, So we are going to do this. This is going to be services add scope. This is going to be an iGame data service. And it's not an EF Core one, it's just a game data service. Now we should be able to add a reference for that, and then that should be good. So now what's going to happen is when ASP.NET Core creates our page object for us, it's automatically going to give us this object without us having to do anything. So this will happen automatically. So now I am going to have this declare a field. We're going to put it right there. And that is a terrible name for that. So I'm going to rename the underscore at the beginning. See, because this got confused. Okay, so now we have private game data service equals game data service, and now we can use it down here. Yeah, my game data service doesn't do very much just yet, as you probably noticed. So this gets us all of our games. Then what we're going to do is we want to do a for each game, blah, 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 and then get that data on it. So we're going to say right here, for each var game from DB, games from DB, and then in here what we're going to say is underscore game data service dot get possible game IDs, and in this one I am just going to say first for now every time, because I don't have an interface to actually choose one, so we're going to take a guess on this. Congratulations, Summer, you won rock, paper, scissors. Totally not random. Takes masterful skill to... and we need to pass in game from db.title. And then this is using system.link. That'll get us the first one. And then here, I want to grab the title and that. So what I'm going to do is, in our game view model for now, I am going to say instead of just Board Game Geek link, I'm going to say Board Game Geek title and Board Game Geek ID. Okay, so once I do that, the change I want to make here is this. King LM97, welcome, thanks for following. What I want to do is this. I want to make this automatically create the title based on that ID. So this is just going to be a getter property, and we're just going to have it generate this value based on that ID. And I happen to know, because we were here before, that the way that a Board Game Geek link works is this. If I go to boardgamegeek.com and I go to /1, whoops, games /1 or something like that, whatever it is, doesn't matter, there we go. That is all that's required for an ID, so I am going to take this, put it in here, and just swap out this for Board Game Geek ID. So now what this is going to do is it's going to automatically wire this together, and whenever it calls this, it's just going to make this string and return it back. Basically just doing that replacement in there for us. So, we no longer need to set that value. We don't want to be doing that, that's fine. So here, what I was doing was this. I was going to create our new game view model objects up here. So we're going to create a new game, insert it in here, and what we're going to do is this. So first off, I'm going to replace those names, And then we're going to say our Board Game Geek link doesn't get set, but our Board Game Geek ID does get set, and it gets set to the value that's returned from this. So we're going to make a string BGG title and int BGG ID. And I don't remember if that was the order or not. Might be. But either way, this is going to be BGG ID. And then we're going to have Board Game Geek title is going to get set to BGG title. Cannot convert from int to string. This was using a string. Let's change that to int. There we go. Alright, so let's see. Hey, why does the winner text not highlight my handle but the joined message does? Just because we didn't put it on there. If we'd done an @ sign on it, Summer, it probably would. Your pull request code in action. Oh, yes, Summer, your code is in there and it works. So we got a new follower and they get coins automatically. So thank you again for the pull request. So keep in mind that all the code that we do on stream, everyone, is actually out on GitHub, so you can contribute and send pull requests and work on the code. That includes both the game tracker we're working on now as well as the bot, which, yes, the bot that is in chat and responding to people right now that has all these different commands, that's the bot we normally develop on stream here. So the bot is quite fun, and it's our main project here. This is our secondary one, actually. And this one's fairly new. So welcome if you are new to DevChatter. Hopefully you're having a good time with us here today. And we are writing some ASP.NET Core code, which is always a blast. So we've got our BGG title here that we're going to assign to that value. And what I want to do now is, I should actually say first or default on this. So I don't know actually what the default. I don't know what a default on a. I'm not sure what a default on a tuple is going to be. That's going to be a weird one. We'll find out, I guess. Okay. So next thing that I need to do is I want to rip this code out of here and move it, all of it, over into our other project. So in order to do that, I'm going to just yank this. Okay, so now we're adding the items into that game collection for each one that was in the database, and we're going to grab the data off of our call there. So what we're going to do is hop over here and make this really do some work potentially, eventually. But for now, I'm going to put it over here, and I am going to comment that out. All right. Let's see. Mod suggestions. Command add unlurk. Steps out of the shadows. Hang on. What's our lurk say? It's just lurking, but still thinks you're all awesome. Yeah. I will add that command. So we're gonna say add unlurk. And it's not chat user display name, it is, hang on guys, we're going to make a quick bot change here. So I'm hopping over into this project just for a second. And in order to do that, what is it? It is tokens, simple token, replacement, user display name, and it looks for it in square braces. So I believe what we're looking for is this. Hang on. And so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm typing in here. So command add unlurk user display name steps out of the shadows. And I'm actually going to say has returned from the shadows. Shadows of lurking. And is here now. has returned from the shadows, and then this is a command that is callable by everyone. So, now we should have an unlurk. DevChatter has returned from the shadows of lurking and is here now. There we go. Perfect. Yeah, so I added that one in there, and Twitchloff, welcome. Have a good lurk. We now have an unlurk command, everyone, so that is the change there. I just wanted to look up what the token was, and now we're back to this. So I commented out this code here, and the reason why I commented it out is because I want to first just run it with this, because this code should run just fine and let us test that everything is doing what we think it's going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. We're no longer making any HTTP client web requests as part of the games page, but I am hoping... Good! It put in my test thing here. That's fantastic. So that means that our code is working, and we're seeing the Board Game Geek link piece there. So now in our game view model, I can do a couple of things. I can add metadata to this, like a... what is it called? It's like a display name or something, right? I need to add data annotations. So, using... Where's data annotations? Anybody remember? I bet if I just put in required, it'll find it for me. There we go. But required is not the one I want to use. I want to do display. So then, name. BGG link. Compile that. We're going to go ahead and run it. So when I refresh this, let's see if it got my change. I believe that's the one I want, is display and name. No? Label? Isn't it that? It is display, right? Description, group name, name, order, prompt, resource type, short name. Yeah, it's display. What am I smoking? Did we not use it there? Display name for that one. Yeah, right there. Game view model. Yeah, that's what I just did. Why didn't it update? So I'm not crazy. Oh. I'm just stupid. No, Echo Strike. I just did, yeah, you catch that? Yeah. Derp, derp, derp. There we go. Let's hop back in here. Helps if you put the attribute on the right property. There we go. We just derped there for a minute. Alright, so the link seems to work. It's putting that in, it's pulling that off of the data that we put in here, which is good. Now all we have to do is actually make that service really be a service that does a real thing. So first thing I want to do is get this stuff committed before we continue any further on this endeavor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to branch off of this for one. We're going to call this, well, no, we're going to put it on here. Adding BGG metadata. So we are going to bring this in. So, okay. So that'll get us BGG metadata. Now we need to set this up so that this actually makes the request and gets us the data that we're actually looking for. So what I'd like to do is, I would like it if we didn't actually have to look up the IDs based on the name. So this is not the way that we want to do it long term. This is just the initial one to make sure that we can get it working. So searching for game title by ID needs to be what gets us our data to begin with. But what we want to do is be able to get any initial metadata based on the IDs. So for now, this is about the best that we get. If we look over in our html.cs file, we call to that and that gets us those, and that's what we use to get the IDs that we set here, even though we really could pull them from the database in the long run, but we don't have that data in the database yet. So here's what I want to do. I want to say if game from db dot boardgamegeekid dot has value. So we're going to say if we don't have a BoardGameGeek value, we are going to go ahead and make our call to that API, grab the first one, and line it up. So this is probably going to be the wrong one, but for now, it should do fairly well. So we're only going to grab this if we don't actually have one in the database for it. We're going to attempt to grab one. And then, so those being used down there as those values, so we are going to do this. These need to get declared up here. Then used in here. Don't kill me, guys. We'll do this, because I'm not quite that evil. We're going to set this equal to this. Title. And equals that dot BoardGameGeek ID. So in question mark that, we're going to assign it equal to that value, then this is going to come down here, and we're going to use it in here. So no matter what, these values are what we're going to set on the view model, whether it came from there or came from here. Okay. Yeah, Echo Strike. That was just me. I put it on the wrong type. Summer just switched from laptop to Xbox to watch the stream. Xbox is behind by 1 to 2 seconds. You're lucky that Xbox is only behind by a couple of seconds there, Summer. The variance that I get, depending on what device I'm on, is massive sometimes. So. Okay, oh, so interesting thing, related to board games, after the stream today, I'm heading to my local board game group to do some more, to do some gaming. I wrote all this code here with a giant blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, cool, yep, I know. We're gonna move, we moved it, some of it. So, essentially, our on get is just wiring up these, so we wrap up the games object, so we fill it up with stuff from each game in games, load it up with view models, and the world is good. Okay. We got rid of all the scary HTTP client requests from the back of that. Sunspire, same with the iPad. Yeah, so my iPad is usually behind my phone by like 15 seconds, which is really bad. And my desktop, the best one I find is actually you running on a wired connection on a desktop computer. Hey, Master Scripter, welcome, and thank you for following earlier. And it's going well. We are making some good progress on code. Got a bunch of people chatting. Our bot is running. How long have we been going here? Uptime. Stream's been going for an hour and 14. So, yeah, pretty good so far. Alright, so we have shifted to our new view model, and we are wired up with. So this call is not really real yet. But that's fine. Oh, let's make sure that this is good. So we're gonna go ahead and run this again. Take a look at what we got in our game list. So our game's over here. Okay, so everything's coming back and wiring up exactly as we want it to. So that is perfect. So let's go ahead and commit that. Nightbot deserves nothing. I agree, Echo Strike. I need to make it so Nightbot is not it's not tracked by our bot. That is a great point. So for anybody that doesn't know, all the code we do here on stream is out on GitHub, so everything's out there. So if you follow that link, it'll get you out to this location here. And from here you can see we have our game tracker and we have our bot, and there's also a stream info. On our bot, if you want to make any requests or suggestions or anything like that, you can do that out here. And Echo Strike, why don't you, well, here, don't give no currency to known bots. So we won't give known bots currency. Nightbot does not need currency. So that is an enhancement that's a good first issue, potentially. That one seems like a pretty easy one. Make some list of ignored users somewhere, potentially even in the database. And yes, as Async Awake posted in there as well, unlike most places, our Discord chat actually has people actively discussing what they're doing on our bot. So our Discord, if you join it, which is linked there in the chat, Discord is a chat program that's commonly used for gaming stuff, and it's very common for Twitch channels to have it, so we do have a Discord as well to go along with that. But in there you will find places that you can talk about different parts of code. Anyone who's a regular in here probably noticed that earlier today I added a few extra channels in there, so we can have additional discussion and not just our C# focused stuff, because most of the people on here are C# and .NET developers. But we have rooms in there for our chatbot programming and for our game tracker, for example. And so when people are working on those projects, they're usually in there chatting about what change they want to make and things like that. So there's discussions of C# and .NET code that go on outside of our stream. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and click the Discord link, which you can also find down below in our Twitch panels. But yeah, that link, again, if you didn't catch it, is for anybody that was watching this on a video afterwards, would have appeared over there, and you could type it in. It's a pretty short link. But yeah, all of our code, all of our Discord, everything's open. Everybody can get to it. Everybody can see our discussions and why we're doing what. Okay, so we want to make this actually do the thing it says it's doing. So let's go ahead and wire up this connection, which actually, first off, let's do this. What would we call this? Get only call for data when we need it. I'm going to jump over here really quickly, and I'm going to modify data, view data, because I know the number for democker. It is number 1, so I can put that one in so it won't be called. So what we're going to do is this. over here, we're going to make this a real call instead of the fake one that we've got. So, first off, we need a reference to systemnet HTTP so we can get our HTTP client access. I'm really looking forward to 2.1 when we get an improved HTTP client. For anybody that doesn't know, we're actually going to have a better HTTP client in the next .NET version, we'll call it. So when .NET Core 2.1 drops, we're going to get a lot of new features, a lot of nice stuff. ASP.NET Core 2.1 is actually going to get us the .NET Core version of SignalR, which is the piece we're really waiting on. Because you see all this screen around me, everything up there to my right and above me and everything. We want our bot to be able to control that and do what it wants there. So what you actually can't tell is that there is an overlay right there right now that our bot does control, but it's not doing anything with it. So we have a transparent overlay on top of all that. And what our bot is actually going to do is we're going to make it so that the bot using SignalR can communicate with that web page that's showing up there, and it's going to be able to modify essentially anything it wants on the screen. So we're hoping we can do cool things, call outs, other stuff like that. Certain commands might trigger something to happen on screen. So we'd like to build all that into the bot eventually. So let's see, here's what we're doing. So we know of an HTTP client, we make a request. We're using that as our base address. We're calling this. We go out to there. So we want to pull content, but we don't actually want to read it this way. We want to grab something else. Yeah. Echo Strike doesn't get the reference. That's one of our mods, is Crimson. That's his name-ish, sort of. Yep, there's no help text on that one. Okay, so let's see. Is success status code? Yeah, there shouldn't be any help text on this one either. Let's all wear hats. Okay, so we get to this point and we want to add a new item to the list. So what I'm going to do is I am going to extract this as a variable. So this is possible game IDs. We're going to put this up here. We're going to declare it at the beginning. We're going to add items to it. But for now, the only item that we're ever going to pick is not a game, because it's going to be the first one in the list every time. Is there a reason for not using DI for the HTTP client? Master Scripter, so the reason we're not using dependency injection on the HTTP client here is because this code is already going to be injected, and so there's not really any value to injecting this HTTP client, because at this point we are so close to the metal that this is the actual call to the API. So we could inject this, but there's not much reason to. Because we're already tied to the fact that we're going to be making a web request. So if we wanted to test any of this code, we can't do it with this HTTP client here, but at least right now this code's very tied to what it's doing. So if we decide down the road that we want to change this up and make it so that more of this code is, I'll say, testable, extracted out, and working, with its own bits, then we can do that. And then we might pass in our HTTP client, because we wouldn't know this, but for example, if we were to make that like, what is it? Is it an iHTTP client? I forget. I think there's an interface that they made for that, but I don't remember what it is. But there's not really, we don't really buy anything out of it. If that makes sense? Does that make sense, Master Scripter? It doesn't get us anything to do it here. In fact, we're not really even using this one yet. So until, once we start testing it, then we'll have value from the fact that we've got this interface. but there's not really any value to it for us yet. So let's hop in here. That code, that's just code cleanup, right? And bringing that in, yeah, okay. That's all I did. And so now what I want to say is, you know what? I'm going to do that. That's the better way to do it. That's going to be the result. And we're going to say result dot content dot var content equals this. Alright, so I am going to get us a breakpoint here. I want to know what is in that content variable. Yeah, so interestingly, Master Scripter, I think a lot of people do. It's part of the reason why. So you might have heard me mention a while back in the stream that I don't add my dependency injection container in immediately. That's actually why the only DI that we're doing in this project is just the built-in ASP.NET stuff. So we don't have any more advanced IOC container in here than what's built in. And the reason for that is that an IOC container adds a little bit of complexity to your project. It adds an extra bit of maintenance that you need to do. Now, for an ASP.NET project, because they built so ASP.NET Core, because the IOC container is so built into the way that .NET Core works, there's not really any cost to adding it in. So that's why in this project we started off with it, but it doesn't have to be that way. Okay, so this no write seek content. Okay, great, cool, thanks. Delete watch and delete watch, and now I am going to add this in here. Content has a value of no write seek stream content. So let's expand this. What's in here? Is buffered, is exposed, content, response stream. Alright, so content dot read as string async. Okay, what did it bomb about? Was it not like invalid? The character set provided in content type is invalid. Cannot read. Really? Copy. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna hop over here. We're gonna go ahead and Google for that sucker. You will need to add the following code to make your coding available in .NET. Okay, cool. So in .NET Core, apparently I have to add this. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Learn new stuff all the time. So let's see where we have to stick this. So let's just put this code in for starters. Every time I have to expand one of those non-public members, I already know I'm not going to find... You know, Echo Strike, there are a couple of times that you do find the right thing, or at least a hint at what it was you were trying to do. All right, let's take a look at that. So I'm gonna put this in here. That works. Okay. All right. So he's suggesting that we read it as a byte array instead of a string. Read as byte array async. Result. So read that as a byte array. And a byte array is not very valuable to us. But like you can call me, if you call me just byte array, then parse to a string. All right. Byte array to string. C#. Don't remember the best way to do that. What is it? Okay, so that get string and you pass in the content. Sounds good. Content. Done. There we go. So now when I get a local variable out of this, why won't you give me a local variable, you piece of junk? Is it because it's wrapped in parens? There we go. It was because it was wrapped in parens. So now we have that as a string. We'll take a look at what the string is when we run this, and let's take a look. Debug. Debug. Look, boss, we're debugging. Alright, hop over into games, and it should catch us on here. It does. Whoops. There we go. There's the XML. Okay. That's exactly what we wanted to get. So, Kalis, Munchkin. Okay, and Democker's the only one it didn't call it on because we have the 1. And remember that it's returning back this value no matter what. So that means that our code also worked that said don't do the Democker one. Yeah, Twitchlove, I could do that. You got to remember I pulled this from a method that wasn't async, and I was just doing that in there. So yes, we can switch this to actually be async now and do it without that. But the nice thing on stream is to just shove in a dot result, and then that just makes it so we don't actually have to deal with the, because then I got to go to the other one and make that await as well. So if you were going to write a unit test for this, would you write an abstraction or just call the API? So Echo Strike, there's 2 questions there. So this code, I would not write a unit test for this code here. What I would write a unit test for is the code that calls this. So I would write a unit test for this code here that makes sure that we only call it when we don't already have those values. So I would unit test this code, and then this, because it is basically just a call to an HTTP client, I have 2 options. I can either just not test it because it's so close to the metal that a unit test on it isn't all that valuable, or what I can do is an integration test and make it so my test makes a single call to the BoardGameGeek API, and just as a simple one just to make sure that this code works, so one test that actually calls the real one, and that'd be an integration test, not a unit test. So in that case, I wouldn't want to pass in a mock or a fake or something of the HTTP client. I would want to use like the real one, like this. So in that case, I would do an integration test. Now, if this were calling some API that I controlled that I wanted to do something like that, I might have it hit a test version of the API or something like that. But in this case, I would use the real one. But I would still want this coming from a configuration file rather than being hard-coded in here. But this is just, you know, we're hacking this together right now. As I'll always tell everybody, make it work first and then make it right. So yeah, I would integration test this, not unit test it, if that makes sense. Where do integration tests go? Yeah, so I always keep integration tests in a separate integration test project, Echo Strike, and the reason I do that is because I don't like the idea of not intentionally running them separately. So I like to call the integration tests and the unit tests and know that each one is not the other one. So let's go ahead and finish this, and we'll make our unit test project and our integration test projects for this. We don't have any real logic in this program yet. That's why I didn't even create the unit test project. Literally all we did was like scaffolded like connections. So if you actually look at the code that we have in our pages right now, we have all these editing pages, but none of them actually have anything that we would really want to test. And I mean that. It's actually one of the reasons why I don't like when people say like 100% test coverage metrics. I actually think those are dangerous for programming, because people start writing code with the goal of getting that. So if you look, here's literally all our code does is when we post, we just add it to the collection and call save. So we could write a unit test for this. In fact, we might at some point, but this code where we just call that and there was no logic, no anything, we didn't really do anything here. So we don't really need a test. Like, we could use a test here, but we don't need a test here, is kind of the idea. Because essentially we're just, like, if we put one here, we're just going to tie ourselves down to our implementation, and we don't want to do that. So, okay, so I'm going to jump back over to this code. So we now have this as a string, but I don't want this as a string. I want to get XML. I need this to be an XML object. So what we're going to do is, what do we want to do? Do we want to link our XML? How do we want to get this? What kind of XML doc do we want to get? What is it? XML document? Or is it X document? X document? I can't remember. C# XML parse. What do our people recommend? That's really old. John Galloway. There we go. There it is, XML document. I was right, that's the one. I'm not loading it from a file, I'm loading it from another piece, so we're gonna, so it's like, hang on, let me add my using, I'm gonna do it slightly differently. So it was XML document. Does this have a constructor? It does, but we don't want to do it that way. We want to do, it's like XML document.load or something like that. No? I thought there was a way to do it from that. Or is it off of the object? XML doc.load. Load XML from the loads string containing the XML document to load. That wasn't very clear, guys. File name, text reader, no. I think it is this one. So we're gonna do that. Let's get ourselves. So we're gonna say var foo equals this. Does that not return a, I don't know. Oh, because it loads it into that document, right. So now this document is loaded with this. So in theory, that should be all we need to do. So I'm going to toss a breakpoint here. We're going to run this. Right, and then nothing weird, yeah. Oh, I look forward to the point when we're actually using JSON for this. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we're here. Oops. Let's click that. Okay, so name. Okay, child. There's 2 children. Perfect. There it is. So the second one has item, and then there's exactly what we want. Okay. So that is perfect. That did exactly what we needed it to do. So now... Yeah, I do not remember how to deal with these stupid X document things. Get element by tag name, that's the one we want. Okay, so now in here, we're gonna say XML, no, really? That's what their sample data is out on here? Awesome, dude. Looks like we wanted item. So item, get elements by tag name. Okay, we're gonna do that. And I think that'll get me the one I want. And then item dot... Oh, that's hilarious. Item dot item. Item that retrieves a node at the given index. Oh, that's item and then number. Okay. Yeah, okay. Item 0 and then dot say inner text for now. Because I just want to toss a breakpoint here. Let's go ahead and debug this. Take a look at what's in here. Item dot 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 item. Exactly, Echo Strike. That would be fantastic, and I think you can technically do that in here. But don't. Clearly. Alright, so... click here to evaluate. Wonk! Okay, so we have item. What's in item? Item. Really? You're gonna bomb on me? Come on, man. Thank you. Okay, so one of them has a name. Looks like they all came back with items that say pandemic. Okay. Attributes. Let's take a look at the attribute collection. It has 2. The first attribute, board game. Okay. Second attribute is the value. What is this attribute's name? Name, ID. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna say, item dot what? Wasn't attributes one of the things on item? No, it's item dot item 0 dot item 0. Oh, it's item 0. There we go. attributes. Can you get these by name instead of by ID? Name, there we go. Perfect, that's what we want. Got it. Got it. There we go. Okay, so this string ID equals that. There we go. Got it, got it, got it. We found it. So that ugly piece of crap is our stupid XML that we needed. Alright, so we don't want this in this form. We want that as an integer, so let's go ahead and do this. We're gonna int dot try parse. And actually, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pass in this value like, yeah, nope, we're not getting, why would I possibly ever want to see that? Alright, we're gonna put that in there. We're gonna say out int, so we're gonna use an output variable instead of an output parameter here. We're gonna call that ID. Getting rid of this. And then what we're gonna do is wrap this inside of an if statement. So if this, then we're gonna do that, and that means we're gonna say possible game IDs dot add. So the one we're gonna add is this. It's gonna be a new one. It's gonna have string and it's gonna have ID. So I put in the empty string right now. That's going to be the guess on what the name is that we'll do in a little bit. That's going to come from the other value. So the couple of things that we want to do here is I want to make that a question mark dot on that. And then here I want to make that a question mark. And now can I do this? Do I have link at the top? System link included? No. System link. So now instead of doing the indexer there, I want to say elements, whoops. Ooh. As queryable. No? Okay, well I can't get away with it. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna trust that we really have one. Then we're gonna say dot attributes ID that dot value. Otherwise that's gonna be a null, which I forget if try parse blows up if you give it a null. We'll find out. Helloja, wouldn't it be smart to take the XML, use the paste as classes option, and just work with classes? We could. You mean do this? Hang on. Forget how you do that off of the XML document. So you're thinking just serialize that as some object that we have that would be the same thing and just work with that. We can do that. Let's take a look at their data. It's a very good point. Where is the initial data set? Search? Was this? Sure, let's do it. Let's do it. I like that approach better. That is way better. We will do this. DTOs. We're going to add a new item to this. That item is going to be a class. We're going to call this search DTO. Search result DTO. So we'll make this a public class, and we're going to give this an auto property of type string that is the game title. Okay, so that is what you meant, right, Helosia? Let's see if someone has some code that we can just gank that's super easy. No. No. There we go. So the problem is they're using both attributes and elements. And Echo Strike, you are actually able to post links in here, I think. Maybe. Let me try that. Yeah, if we made it a dynamic, that would let us basically do this. Open the code with the files faster. Okay. So you're saying I can go to that location and view the page source, copy the XML. So I've copied that. You're saying I can open up a code file where the proxies to be used. It should be place the cursor in a location in the file outside of any existing class. Okay, outside of any existing class. And then go to Edit Paste Special. Wow. Yeah, that is super nice. That is like totally cheating. Holy cow. That was exactly what I needed. Well then. Okay. Using this, they can be used in goods. Okay, so I can deserialize into that. That's kind of amazing. Huh. Yeah, that's one of those things that once you know it exists, that's pretty useful. That's good. Okay. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. We need to grab our serializer and deserialize into that. So we're going to make an XML serializer. Because we're going to make this way nicer now. So you guys, see, this is why you guys are awesome. Serializer. And the type, I think we want this one. Yep, there's the one. So, type of. Alright. So that ought to work. Deserialize. Now, what do we want to do? XML reader. Now here's the question. Is that XML doc? Is that a thing that'll... Is that count as one? That's the real question. XML doc. Nope. So here's what we need to do then, is stream, text reader, XML reader. So let's check and see. Results dot content dot read as stream async what do we say? It came back as that. Result. What's it not like here? Cannot convert from stream to XML reader. Alright, so one of these takes a stream, right? There we go. We'll see if it complains. Yeah, Twitch love. Holy cow! I agree. That was a holy cow kind of moment right there. So now we need to... So we deserialize this into an object of type board games. Why isn't this generic? I already told it was a serializer of that type. Then do we need to do anything? You need to... Yeah, I did, Aloja. Sorry, stream delay there. I'm just kind of annoyed that it doesn't automatically do it. Like, that's kind of stupid. Okay, so... Hey, Swifty Spiffy, welcome. We're writing some horrible code together. Hopefully you're up for writing some horrible code. Board game dot... Wait, board games dot board game, right? Which is an array of these. Dot first or default. Then we're gonna say dot name object ID. Because why wouldn't it be a uint? What the hell? Why is it a uint? Cast the uint to an int. Yeah, exactly, Swifty Spiffy. Horrible code. Okay, it's not really that horrible, I'm teasing. Alright, so... and yes, I understand that loop, I'm passing back a collection, so we can do that. And this code really isn't that bad, I'm just kidding. Obviously. Alright, so... there's an error that was not expected. What? What? But I pasted it from your thingy. Let's see. Inner HTML. Items, XML namespace. What's it look like? This one. There we go. Shorter list. Echo Strike. A lot of the oldest code at work uses a lot of XML. I can't figure out why they did it that way instead of creating classes. So yeah, Echo Strike. Back in the day, there was a lot of bad stuff done with XML. Welcome to 2005 in .NET. I don't know if anybody here ever used what's it called? There's a CMS called Umbraco, I believe is what its name is, and it's out of that era where people thought XML was going to be everything. So it's literally a CMS that's like built on XML. Which was a crazy idea. So I'm a little confused here. Why? Yeah, no, Swifty Spiffy. We all prefer JSON, but JSON was not popular in .NET, 13 years ago. So, in fact, back in 2005, among most developers, JavaScript was avoided like the plague and pretty much seen as like, oh God, I hope I don't have to write the JavaScript. That's usually how it was. JavaScript used to be really bad. And part of the reason for that really doesn't have anything to do with JavaScript. It more has to do with what JavaScript was being expected to do. And the problem is that all the different browsers and everything... yes, Swifty Spiffy, you hit it exactly. jQuery fixed it. So jQuery is the first library that was actually popular that made it so that you could deal with the DOM and all the different browsers without wanting to shoot yourself every half hour. So jQuery basically came along and solved the whole problem. So yeah, there you go. Yep, that's the idea. So let's see. So the deserialization failed there on that, and I'm not sure why. We're gonna run this again, because I want to see what the string was that we used to create our XML. If I can. Yeah, no, Swifty Spiffy, that's exactly the point. Is Twitch Love. Very nice, yeah. Wait, does tokens not work? Do we not have that alias? Yeah, that works. Okay, let's see. Board games, XML serializer, deserialize, serialize content, a stream, async result. And then when this comes in here, this is what ends up bombing. And when we take a look at this, this is because items, XML namespace was not expected. But we shouldn't have an items. There isn't, as far as I can tell, there is no items. Where's items coming from? Oh, am I reading it already? You're right. Hang on. So it shouldn't technically matter, but I no longer need to do any of that reading. So we're gonna get rid of those pieces as well. You are right, Haloja. We should get rid of that. You think, Janiscu? It shouldn't. It should be able to take commands pretty quickly. What it doesn't like is if you, one person, send two commands in all at once. Yeah. Hang on. We might have the wrong code. Let me take a look. I'm worried we might have done the wrong thing, and that would be totally on me. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to our DTO classes, because I think they might actually be wrong. So I'm going to delete them all again. We're going to recreate them. We're going to repaste them. So we're going to delete all those. We're going to recreate them in a second. So what I am going to do is this. Items, yeah, see? This API is different. There's no details on API 2. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to jump back to that code. And so the reason I was getting rid of that was because I thought we were going to need to get new code because I realized we needed to get the one that's the right one. But instead all I'm going to do is change our call for now. We're going to call the original API because we know it works and it returns back the data that we can see right now. So hence we're going to use that one. Oh, actually, this seems to be implying that it just does that. No. No, it doesn't. Oh, that would be search and query. So hang on, back it up. I'm going to put this there, search, and then instead of search, it's going to be query on this one. There it is. Okay. So this is the correct XML. This is the one we wanted. Got it. Fixed. Alright, so let's jump back here. I was right. We did need to get this. Okay, so we're going to click up here now. We're going to go up to Edit, Paste Special, Paste XML as classes. Unexpected XML declaration. Fantastic. It does not want an XML declaration at the top. That's fine. We'll copy this instead. Edit, Paste Special, XML as classes. There we go. So now we've got that code again automatically created. Now let's use this instead inside of our service. So instead of a type of items, instead of a type of board game, this is going to be a type of items. I think, right? Items, yep. So there you go. I think, Helosia, so that you can add to them. So partial classes let you extend them. So if anybody's been paying attention to the proposals for C# 8, there is actually part of that proposal is to make it so that they can get extendability in classes. It'll work a little bit like partials, but you won't have to declare them as partials, and that's what's really cool about it. Items, whoops, items. Oh, whoops, wait, board games dot item First or default. It's not object ID. It is ID. Okay. Yeah, oh, Echo Strike, yeah, I got it. Yeah, stream delay. Helloja, partial classes somehow weird me out. You know, what's interesting is that a lot of things used to be partial classes back in the ASP.NET stuff. Summer, yeah, see, stream delay. You guys are both telling me to do that. Everybody's telling me to do that. I already did it. I'm on it, guys. I'm on it. Okay. So, now, in theory, I think this might work. Let's find out. So I dropped that little, we're going to debug this again. I dropped our breakpoint after the deserialization, so we'll see what happens. When we hop into games here, count 1, yes, we're here. Now count should be 2, and it got 1. Very nice. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're no longer going to have the default one in here. What we're going to do is this. We're going to come down here. We're going to bring this up here. We're going to say var foo equals, I'll rename that in a second, equals that. But we don't want it to be ID. We want to call this possible game. Not casting that as an int. And then we're going to say possible game dot ID. Now this one gets cast as an int. And this is possible game dot name. Wait, what was name? That's a guess on what that should be there. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So now it's gonna actually put them in there, in theory. I don't, you know, if possible game is not null, then insert it. So board games question mark dot first or default. Okay, so we're gonna be safe on that. Let's see. Partial classes. Don't partial classes kind of imply breaking single responsibility principle? Helloja, not always. Part of the reason why we use partial classes is because you might want someone to be able to extend it. What it violates is not single responsibility, but more the open-close. It kind of gives you a little bit of open-close principle, so they can have the same responsibility, but you might want a way of tweaking exactly how it works. And so it can still be the same responsibility as long as you're not using a partial class to make it ginormous, right? And give it extra responsibilities, basically. So that depends on the code you write. Okay, so yeah, that's nice. I guess we'll go ahead and run this, see what happens. So wait, did that run? I can't tell if that ran. Let's see if it's running. I'll just refresh the page. Boom! Value cannot be null. At what point was there a null? I'm going to build that. We're going to run it. I'm just debating whether or not that actually recompiled everything or not, because I'm not sure it did. Yes, exactly, Janisku. I was mentioning that earlier. It's going to be so nice once ASP.NET 2.1 comes along, because it will have improved some of this. Pandemic Legacy came back with nothing. What? Should have come back with this. Why'd Pandemic Legacy come back with a 0, guys? That's not good. That one failed somehow. Now, Pandemic might have failed also, but we don't know that for certain because we don't know which one it actually came back with. So here's what I want to do to help us find out. Not game records. Is it this one? Games. Okay. So I am going to add this. Actually, I'm going to do this. There we go. So now it's going to print out everything about it. So if I put that in there, rebuild this, and then look at that page again, we should get to see what the title was that it thinks it is. The only place where I saw partial class was WinForms controls. Classes with a lot of template code. Yeah, Janisku, it's going to be super nice. I'm really looking forward to it. So, Pandemic Legacy, Kalis, and Munchkin. Cool! And what's neat about that is, that means that it's actually, so when it's running this code, in our CSHTML file, you will see that we are using, we're setting those values on that view model object equal to the values that came back from this when we called it. And if we had it in our database, we're just using the title that was on it. So if we already had the ID, we use that one. So that means that Pandemic Legacy isn't coming back correctly. So let's see if we can figure out why. So we're going to hop back into our data service real quickly. Actually, I'm going to commit this before we go any further, and then we're going to do that. API call to BGG. So cool. That works nicely. All right. Let's toss a breakpoint in here. And we'll debug this. Now I could have put a conditional breakpoint here, so I don't know if you guys know this, but conditional breakpoints actually do exist. So what you can actually do is you can say game title, for example. Game title equals Pandemic Legacy. And so now what it'll do is it will only show up here when you do that. So now when I click this and I go to the games, it should only catch the one where it's Pandemic Legacy. So if we look, Pandemic Legacy. So I didn't have to click through the wrong ones. You're in the Microsoft Docs. It says a DTO is an object that defines how the data will be sent over the network. Do you agree with that definition? Echo Strike, in some circumstances, yes. So I like so I consider data transfer not just to, so that one specifically says over the network, but I would allow a data transfer object, for example, to be a data transfer between applications within my program, within my computer, for example. I don't think you need to go over a network specifically, but yes, the idea is a DTO is defining the structure of data that is going to be sent over a network. And I would use a DTO as the term for either end of that. So whether I'm sending it to you or receiving it. So either sending or receiving from another system is what I would call a DTO. Does that make sense, Echo Strike? So that's how I use it. And specifically, for anybody that is using DTOs, especially in this way that we've got here, you are like, DTOs are going to be absolutely amazing in C# 8 because we will have record types, and we're going to use record types as our DTOs. Like, and by we, I mean everybody is clearly going to do this all the time. Oh, wait, hang on. I think I know what happened. Exact equals 1 kills us. Yeah, it's that exact equals 1 that's messing us up. So I just kind of want to nuke that because I think it'll work if we get rid of it and at least be close enough. We'll find out. Let's see. Is there no WSDL for this API? I actually don't know if there's a WSDL for the API, Helosha. I didn't look. Yeah, Echo Strike. DTOs are very common. In fact, in a way, a view model, in a lot of its uses, is almost a DTO of its own kind, because it's kind of like transferring the object between two locations. So, like, here's an example of where I use a DTO. If I were to make an API controller in ASP.NET, Web API, right? And I make an API controller, the data it returns, especially if it's, say, being called by JavaScript, because I'm going to put that on a page, I would be okay if you either called that a view model, because that is data that's, model, that is a views model object, and I'd also be okay with calling it a DTO. So either one would be fine by me, because you're transferring data to it. So that's actually a case where we're all using DTOs all the time and we don't even think about it. Why did we blow up here? We tried to parse. Son of a... Are you freaking kidding me, guys? Are you kidding me? We did an integer overflow on that. That's impressive. Thanks, guys. That was great, BGG. Wonderful. So glad you did a uint. I wish it would tell me what the value was. Oh. That's funny. See, it's the deserialization that failed, and that's like our copied deserialization. Maybe they're yelling at us because we hit the API too much. That's also possible. Either way, let's go ahead and get this committed. Remove the exact check. We'll definitely want it removed because we're trying to pass back all the data at some point. Yes, Echo Strike. Do you know how many years I used to be an MVP. I'm an ASP insider, so I actually get the chance to go talk to the Microsoft team on a regular basis. And let me tell you how many times I've asked the C# team to tell me the value that was null when I get a null reference exception. It's a lot. I've told them a lot of times. Now the thing that's really annoying is that one time I was having this discussion with them and they were talking about why it's hard, and I'm like, I understand that it's hard because at the time that it's actually running, they don't have the value of what that name was, and so they can't tell you the name of the variable. But what I did get them to admit is that they can tell me the type. So in a lot of cases, I sit there and I'm like, you know what would be better is if you could tell me anything about what value was null, not just a line number. You could say like it was this type or something like that. Like, you've got to know something about it. Whatever metadata you've got about the object, I would like you to tell me. Okay, so here is what we are going to do real quick. We are going to go over here. We're going to switch back over to Game Tracker. And I am going to do a pull request on this because I want to have this be the actual code. So we're going to do the initial setup because this is the initial setup. I'm going to create a pull request, and I'm going to merge this into master because I would like this to be the main piece of Game Tracker that everybody can work on so people can send us pull requests. So we're getting this a little nicer, and remember, we have to be able to connect to Board Game Geek and pull in its data, so this is actually an important task for us, because what we want to eventually do is pull in essentially their entire library into our database, because that's actually what we're going to use when we do our machine learning stuff. So coming up, I would assume probably in a couple of weeks, say like depending on scheduling, I'm going to talk to Guy about this, and I'm going to see if I can get him sometime either second or third week of May to do a stream with us, where what we're going to do is attempt to add machine learning to this program so that it can make recommendations for games, so that it can say, oh, you liked a game this much, and here's our recommendation for your next game because we think you're going to like it. Yes, exactly, Hilosia. So we want to do some machine learning. We think it's going to be awesome. I'm a big fan of machine learning. I'm a big fan of a lot of things, AI or AI-esque. So should be good. And I'm probably going to merge this in, actually. Perhaps a README, yes. So we do need a README for setting up this project because there isn't one yet, so setting up Game Tracker is not very nice yet, but we will make it nice. Okay, so a couple of bits of housekeeping. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the bot leave and come back in. One thing that I want to mention to all of you is that all of the code that we work on DevChatter is out on GitHub, so you can go take a look at this. It's right there, and the bot is not back in yet. Come on, bot. It's doing a call to the Twitch API right now. That's kind of a slow call. It's trying to see everybody who is currently in chat, and it's going to tell us who that is, and it's going to keep track of them and give them currency. So that's what the bot is currently doing. We're going to try bringing him in one more time. And there it goes. Okay, so he's back in. So as I said, all the code for this is out on GitHub. And if you're watching this after the fact, you can find the link over there on the left. It is github.com/devchatter. And we welcome contributions. It doesn't matter how long you've been writing code. We want everybody to be able to contribute. So whether you are, brand new to coding or you've been, programming for 20, 30, 40 years, we would love to have you working on the project. Our main two projects are the Game Tracker and the DevChatter bot. And as I said, everything we do on stream is out here. So the CodeRush learning stuff we were doing is also out here. And in addition to that, you can find information about upcoming streams, so anything that we've got planned is going to be out here. So today's stream was working on Game Tracker, and then on Monday, we are going to be reviewing pull requests and adding features to our DevChatter bot. So this week we actually had 5 streams. Normally we do a Monday, a Tuesday, a Thursday, and a Saturday, but this week we had a bonus stream, a Wednesday one. That was our Learning to Use CodeRush with Mark Miller, so that was pretty fun. So if you want to check out any of our past videos, they're all in the videos section here on Twitch, or if you're on YouTube, they're here on YouTube. All of our videos are also ending up on YouTube, by the way, but our YouTube videos are on a delay. So the YouTube videos, I generally speaking have them set up so that when they're expiring on Twitch, they start showing up on YouTube. So if you want to take a look, go ahead and feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can see all of our old videos out there. We are on, so currently we have, we're nearing 700 followers. I don't know, maybe we crossed it today, I'm not sure. We might have already, because we did get a handful of new followers. But we are on track, and we have, I don't know, pretty good amount of people in here, I would say, on a regular basis. But the big thing I wanted to point out to everybody, if you had fun and like talking to all the other people that are in here in this chat, you can seriously go find us on Discord. I posted the link here, so you'll see it on the left there, or in the chat. If you take a look at our Discord, we actually have a fairly active Discord. Our members are on there, and we are chatting about code. And that is basically... so Discord is a chat application that's commonly used for gamers, but we use it also for... And Async Awake, you're correct. It's actually my second video. The first one's not on there. I didn't get it. So the... yeah, so our Discord... anybody that's contributing to the project is very likely in that Discord and talking about it. So we usually talk about the Discord, what changes, what contributions people are going to make, pull requests, so people talk about stuff in there. And that is actually what is commonly in Discord. I am actually branching out our Discord, so I have been adding in new pieces to it. So our Discord now has sections in it for talking about Microsoft topics, .NET, C#, ASP.NET, Azure, and that includes all the core or full framework stuff. We have JavaScript, and we're going to add additional ones as well, because we do want to be open for talking about whatever technology people want to discuss, and we think that'll be a great place for that. If you want to catch us next, we stream at about the same time on all of our 4 days, so it's usually 2 p.m. My time. But I know a lot of people aren't here are in Europe, so if you know what your UTC offset is, you can type in schedule and it will tell you. So our little schedule command, our bot will tell you what our next stream is, so if you look at that, that's the time that I stream in my time, which is currently at -4 UTC, which is Eastern Daylight Time right now, because we're in Daylight Savings Time. Yeah. Did I forget to cover anything? Thank you everybody for chatting today, and thank you for all the follows and everything else. So, let's see. So, UTC +2, that's what, probably, Western Europe, so, Spain, France, Netherlands, Belgium, probably, and various others. So, have a good one, everybody, and happy coding, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you all on Monday.